If you see someone in the mirror behind me, do not mute the sound. As long as this voice continues, it cannot come through.
You're listening to frequency 7.83.
If your reflection blinks first, do not look again.
You're listening to frequency 7.83.
Good night to everyone who is still awake, and a special hello to those who tried to sleep, but the night decided otherwise. You're listening to frequency 7.83. If you have just found our signal, don't worry. You haven't missed anything. The night is only beginning. My coffee, as usual, went cold before I could pretend it might actually help tonight. Rain is tapping against the glass. Or perhaps it is fog. Around here, the two are almost the same thing. On nights like this, the city feels closer than usual, as if every wall has grown damp, thin, and slightly less certain. Tonight's subject is quiet, almost domestic. We will talk about mirrors, about rooms that reflect things a little more accurately than they should, and about people who once felt that their reflection looked at them first. If you are home alone, do not worry. Most things that seem strange after midnight turn back into furniture by morning. Almost all of them. And I am not alone tonight. There is someone else in the studio with me, someone who I suspect has seen more rooms after dark than any mind should have to hold. You may know him by another name. It depends on the city and the year. He may have used more than one himself. But tonight, he is here. Good evening. Good evening, though some rooms would rather we did not call this a good night. You see? I told you he knew how to make a subject feel welcoming. Some rooms remember people better than mirrors do. And some mirrors learn too quickly. A promising start for a broadcast in which we still hope to keep our listeners until the middle. If a mirror has decided to remember you, the middle is no longer very important. You have traveled a great deal, night hotels, old districts, railway towns. Was there a place where the reflections behaved in a particularly strange way? Osaka, an old business hotel. Narrow corridors, warm lights, and a humming canned coffee machine downstairs. There was a mirror beside the lift. It always made the corridor look slightly longer than it really was. The worst part was that nobody found this unusual. Then either you were the first person to notice, or the last person who still thought it was wrong. In a good place after midnight, there is very little difference. All right, we will begin gently. There is no need to rush. The night ahead of us is long. The first story is not frightening, at least not in the way most people use that word. It comes from Shanghai, and it is more about habit than death. In an old apartment building lived a woman named Lin. Her husband died long before the neighbors grew used to seeing her alone. Yet every evening at exactly 7, she still laid the table for two cups, 2 pairs of chopsticks, and 2 small bowls of soup. She never spoke to the empty chair. She never cried or turned the meal into a ritual for anyone to witness. She simply kept cooking as if someone in the house still needed to wait for the soup to cool. Many years later, she died as well. The apartment was locked. Her relatives arrived late. For a while, the neighbors passed her door the way people pass a room that still feels occupied, even when they know the truth. Then the small things began. Steam appeared on the kitchen window again in the evenings. Sometimes a warm light showed beneath the door. In Lin's kitchen hung an ordinary old mirror in a wooden frame darkened by age. When the relatives finally entered, the table was bare. Only 1 cup stood on it, but one of the women looked up and saw 2 cups in the mirror. The second cup existed only in the reflection, and the second chair in the mirror was not empty. No one screamed. No one broke the mirror. One relative slowly covered it with a towel. As a neighbor was leaving, she heard a spoon touch a porcelain bowl once in the kitchen, as if someone were gently cooling the soup. Some kinds of loneliness do not consider death a good enough reason to leave. Or some kinds of loyalty no longer need a person, only an empty place at the table. Yes, and perhaps that is the gentlest thing we will hear tonight. Let us hear from the people calling tonight. If you can hear us, the night is already deep enough.
Good evening. I am calling from Seoul. This may not sound very frightening, but there is a mirror in my bedroom. When my landlady rented me the apartment, she said something strange, no matter cover it every night I am.
Tonight we are collecting the strange things people say about mirrors with particular care.
I asked why. The house rests more peacefully that way. I have never dared to leave it uncovered.
Because you believed her? Or because you did not want to find out for yourself?
Probably the second. Sometimes not asking is another way to live comfortably.
Sometimes the best way to live in peace is not to ask the second question. Thank you for calling. You can leave that mirror alone for now.
Hello. I am calling from Bangkok.
I am not superstitious, honestly.
But there is a mirror in my hallway.
Several times, while I was still outside looking for my keys, my reflection was already inside the apartment.
It was as if the mirror were 1 second ahead.
What do you mean by already inside?
In the mirror, I had entered, closed the door, and was looking down the hallway.
In reality, I was still standing outside in the dark.
Once, I thought someone else was in the reflection with me.
But that may have been the light.
And you still keep that mirror in your home?
Yes.
Should I have thrown it away?
Some reflections do not like to wait. For now, do not hang anything new on it, and do not look into it the moment you come home. Turn on every light in the hallway first. Take off your shoes. Only then should you raise your head.
That is remarkably specific advice.
It is that kind of night. The next story comes from Japan. It is the kind that first sounds like an ordinary inconvenience. A young man moved into an old apartment building. It was not quite derelict, but it was the sort of place where the stairwell always smelled of someone else's dinner, wet umbrellas, and paint that had dried years ago. He worked late and came home after 11 almost every night. Every night, on the landing between the 3rd and 4th floors, he met the same neighbor. The same man every time? Every time. Tall, wearing house slippers, with a polite and tired smile. Each night he said exactly the same thing: "You are late again. Try not to look through the stairwell window tonight." At first the young man assumed it was an odd joke or a local superstition. But the unsettling part was not the neighbor. It was that nobody in the building seemed surprised. When he asked about the man from upstairs, people answered, "Oh yes, he stands there sometimes." That is worse than a ghost. A shared habit of accepting what is wrong. Yes. A few weeks later, he asked the building manager who lived upstairs. She said the 4th floor had been empty for 12 years, ever since a fire. The electricity was disconnected. Even the lamp on the landing did not work. That night he climbed the stairs more slowly than usual. The man was there again in the same slippers, wearing the same tired courtesy. Again he said, "You are late. Try not to look through the stairwell window tonight." This time the young man stopped and asked, "Why?" The man on the landing smiled a little wider and replied, "Because in that window you are already home." He looked. The stairwell window was black, as it should have been at night, but the glass did not reflect the stairs. It showed the inside of his own apartment. The hallway light was on, the bedroom door stood open, and someone's back was walking in ahead of him. The worst moment is not when the dead return. It is when the living become used to having them nearby. From then on, he climbed the stairs without looking at the window, just like everyone else in the building. It is time for instructions for the sleepless. If you have listened to us long enough, you already know that some instructions are safer to know than to test. Tonight's instruction is called the water mirror vigil. It is used when someone wants to know whether a room truly reflects itself. If you insist on trying it, do it only once. Enter the bathroom at 3:03. Fill a basin or tub with cold water. Turn off every unnecessary light and leave only one. Place a candle beside the mirror, not in front of it. For the first 60 seconds, do not look at your own reflection. When the water becomes still, do not speak your own name. Speak the name of the room in which you are standing. Do not repeat it. If you hear an answer, do not lean closer. If someone in the reflection blinks before you do, Do not turn off the light at once. Wait until the water is still again. Only then should you leave. Do not lock the door behind you. And if the room answers, do not ask whom it remembers. The greatest mistake is believing that a room has no name of its own. You are still with us, and I am glad. We will take a short break, then we will return.
สลายไปตามกาลแห่งเวลาแต่สัญญายังส่องประกายไม่เลือนหายในวันที่เธอลาพี่จะช่วยผ่อนคลายเป็นลมอุ่นคอยกอดปลอบยามเดียวดายต่อให้พี่ไกลเกินลมหายใจใจพี่ยังอยู่ข้างเธอเสมอไปเป็นแสงเป็นลมคอยคุ้มครองเธอไว้รักไม่ตายอยู่ใกล้เธอเมื่อค่ำคืนยาวไกลไร้ดวงดาวหากหัวใจเธอสั่นไหวและอ้างว้างหลับตาลงนิ่งๆฟังเสียงจากปลายทางพี่ยังวางรักไว้ในใจเธอต่อให้พี่ไกลเกินลมหายใจใจพี่ยังอยู่ข้างเธอเสมอไปเป็นเงาเป็นแสงคอยคุ้มครองเธอไว้รักไม่ตายพี่อยู่ใกล้เธอต่อให้พี่ตายเป็นเมฆบังแดดจ้าให้เธอพักเป็นอ้อมกอดจากรักที่ยิ่งใหญ่หลับให้สบายนะคนดีไม่ต้องกลัวสิ่งใดพี่จะเฝ้าจะคุ้มครองตลอดไป
Your tags and industry chum. Blake over.
Meridian Night Pharmacy. Open until dawn for insomnia, anxiety, candle burns, and reflection-related stress. Ask about night covers for mirrors, remedies for recurring dreams, and travel kits for unexpected ritual circumstances. This week only, opaque coverings for reflective surfaces are installed free before sunrise. Meridian. We help your home look at you less.
The next story works best late at night. It works even better if someone else is in the room with you. But we rarely get to choose good conditions in advance. A woman could not sleep. Outside was an ordinary dark street, an occasional car, wet light from the street lamps. She lay in bed listening to late-night radio, so she would not have to hear her own thoughts. The room was small, a bed against the wall, a thin curtain, a phone face down on the bedside table, and a chair behind her near the mirror. On the radio, a host told a story about a room where no one should turn toward the mirror after midnight. He spoke calmly, almost too calmly. Then the woman noticed that his description was becoming uncomfortably exact. A bed by the wall, a thin curtain, a phone face down, and a chair behind her. She told herself it was a coincidence. Then the voice on the radio said, "If there is a wooden chair behind you with clothes piled on it, it would be better not to turn around and check." And even then, most people turn around immediately after hearing those words. She did not turn around. Not at first. She gripped her phone beneath the blanket and kept listening. Then the voice said, "Most importantly, do not look at the chair behind you. Not because someone is sitting there, but because at first it will be empty." If you have already turned around, keep listening. It is safer while you are still listening. Slowly she turned her head. The chair really was empty. The clothes were still piled there, and for 1 second she felt relieved. Then she saw the mirror. In the mirror, the chair was not empty. Something was sitting on it. Worse, in the reflection, she was still lying with her face toward the wall, which meant the one who had turned around was no longer the first version of her. Some reflections do not catch up with us. They simply begin before we do. She switched off the radio, but the voice did not stop. It continued from the darkness of the room, no longer from the receiver. The last words she heard before covering the mirror with her blanket were, "Do not worry. The first one is always more frightened." All right, let us pretend it was only a story. If you are still with us, the night is holding together well enough. 1 or 2 more calls, and then we will let the broadcast cool down.
Good evening.
I am going to say something strange.
I heard this episode before, about 2 years ago, including the story about the woman and the chair.
I lived in a different apartment then.
The strangest part is that there was no mirror opposite my bed at the time.
And now there is?
Yes.
On nights like this, it is unwise to demand too much honesty from coincidence.
The station anymore.
Some calls come through more clearly once they no longer need distance. Not every listener should envy a strong signal. It has been a heavy night. Thank you for staying with us this long. Not every mirror deserves trust, but not every mirror should be feared in the same way. Some have simply faced an empty room for too long. Some only return what the house refused to forget. And some wait until a person has looked long enough. That is why I never invite you to warm family gatherings. I am rarely welcome in places with many reflective surfaces. Fair enough. If there is a mirror opposite your bed, you may pretend to be a rational adult, but a piece of cloth is inexpensive. Sometimes common sense looks exactly like that. That is all for tonight. This was Frequency 7.83. Thank you to everyone listening from kitchens, cars, stairwells, dark apartments, and places where the word address may not quite apply. Guard your sleep, and if possible, do not check who in your home blinks first. Until tomorrow night. Tell me, there is no window behind us, is there? There never was.